Hi, and welcome back to part 2 of the history of the military family in my series, Marriage and the Military. If you have not watched part 1 of this particular subject, the history of the military, then go back and watch part 1 before you come to part 2 so we can know what we're talking about. And if you have not watched my introduction video to this particular series, Marriage and the Military, please do so. I am Coach Shika. I am the founder of One More Step, Purpose, Vision, and Relationship Coaching, Veteran Focus. If you have not checked out my book, please do. The Realization of Irrelevance, Finding Your You After the Military. It's available on Amazon and also my website, www.onemore-step.com. If you want an autographed copy of it, you can always email me at onemorestep@yahoo.com. Send me a text or phone call, 864-1-MORE, 864-663-6673. And also on my website, you can find my downloadable book, which is this one right here. Be what you want to be, do what you want to do, right? All right, let's get started. Let's go into part 2. Okay, now, part 2, I want to talk about, again, I'm talking about the history of the military marriages, right? Again, the military marriages has been around since the beginning of time, and the average age for a service member to get married is 24, period. 24. We are 50% more likely to be married than people in the civilian sector because of the different things, because of having to be away from the people you love. Sometimes we'll get married, we'll accelerate a marriage because we don't want to be by ourselves, or we love that person and we don't want to be separated from them. So we'll marry that person so that we can be together. I mean, that's just the way it is, you know. Now, the third thing I want to talk about, because again, in part 1, I've already talked about the first and the second thing. The first thing being being away from the family, the spouse being away from the family. And then the second thing on that was having field problems, and it's causing problems in your relationship as a young couple in the military because you guys can't quite understand how the military works, or you haven't been around long enough to understand that, you know, yeah, your spouse is only up the street, but he or she can't, you know, really have contact with you, or you can't see them because they're on a 7-day or 30-day field problem that's just, you know, 20 clicks up the road, right? So that was in part 1. So now, part 3, I want to talk about deployments, right? Another thing that we face that civilians don't have to deal with are deployments. You guys know that since 9/11, soldiers are deploying every year, literally. They'll go for a year, they'll come back for about a year, then they'll go back for a year. Just recently, they shut it down where I think now it's at 9 months. But it was even a time when rotations was 15 months. So a soldier will go, come back. They'll go for 15 months, come back for about a year, and then go back for 15 months. Now it's 9 months because of the raise and the statistics when it comes to PTSD and depression and anxiety and things like that so many service members was going through. And so I think that Congress and VA and all those guys decided that, you know what, maybe we need to stop with the 15 months and the 12-month deployments and make it 9 months instead. But, you know, only thing that does just means that your deployments come around a lot sooner, because when you're back for when you deploy for 9 months, the odds are you're going to be back for 9 months, and then you got to go again. So all that means is that they're getting more deployments in a period of time. That's it. That just means more deployments, but shorter time, right? Now, some of the things that we deal with that a lot of people don't deal with is post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, PTSD a person can get PTSD from any type of significant emotional event that has happened in his or her life. Okay, so for example, I know someone that when they were a kid, they got hit by a car, right? They were about 3 years old, and the car did some damage to them and almost killed them. They were in the hospital for several weeks, and they didn't think that he was going to make it. Well, to this day, he has some delayed issues when it comes to learning abilities and movement and things like that. But not only that, he also suffers from PTSD. Every time he's in a vehicle and the vehicle is moving too fast, or you make an abrupt stop, or you seem to be, you know, because they don't drive. He don't drive. He's in the passenger side or the back seat. But every time he's in a vehicle with someone and they seem that they're not driving the way that he wants them to drive, he'll get really edgy and nervous and things like that. That is a classic symptom of PTSD. So it's not just geared around deployments or soldiers who have deployed or wartime. It can also be from things like that. You're experiencing things in your life. However, more veterans have PTSD that's documented than anybody else. Okay, per capita, which means that if you take 100 veterans, more than likely you're going to have 99 of them that have some form of PTSD. Whereas that if you take 100 civilians, more likely you may only have 50 of them that have PTSD. So when it comes to per capita, more veterans have PTSD than anybody else because of deployments and the things that they endure while they're deployed, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So when you're talking about a relationship and the impact that a deployment has on a relationship, that is extensive, because a lot of times a service member's spouse may not know how to deal with that service member when he or she comes back. So because of it, that person comes back with some things that they think about, some things that wake them up in the middle of the night, some things that require them to take medication and things like that. And so sometimes it will hurt a marriage. It will hurt a relationship, especially when you have a young couple who still trying to understand themselves, still trying to understand who they are as a person, let alone what it's like to be a married couple. And then now you have this young service member who's had to deploy, that's only 19, 20 years of age. They come back and they're in a marriage. So now not only do they have to see about themselves and do their self-care for themselves, they have to also check on their spouse. Their spouse might be dealing with being away from home or just being in the area where they were by themselves while that deployed soldier was away. So there's a lot of things that veterans deal with, or should I say service members deal with, that civilians would never understand. And that's why when it comes to marriage in the military, these are some things that you have to take in consideration if you're thinking about marrying someone that is in the military and you're not. Now, when you're dealing with someone that's a service member like yourselves, it's a little bit more easy to understand, because you know exactly what that person is going through. You know exactly what it means to be in the field. You know exactly to know what it means to train all day and not be able to pick up the phone when you call, or not be able to, talk to them on a regular basis, because more than likely you're doing those things yourself. So you don't have time to check on your husband, and your husband don't have time to check on you, because you guys are both going through the same thing. Although you may be in two different units, you still may be on the same deployment cycle, and so y'all's schedules are pretty much the same. But when you're dealing with someone that's not in the military, that's when it has a lot more issues in a relationship, because that person who's not in the military won't quite understand what you're going through, right? So another part I want to talk about is, spouses being able to, spouses being single parents. That's one of the things that I hear a lot of couples in the military talk about, is that the spouse feels like he or she is a single parent because the service member either work long hours, have extensive field problems, or deploy a lot. So they feel like, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up to be a single parent, but here I am. I find myself being a single parent, and it could be tough. It could be very much tough on a relationship, right? But some things that I want to tell you guys about that is you have to communicate with each other. So when you are a civilian, or if you are another service member married to a service member, you guys have to communicate, and communicate often, right? And then on top of that, what you talk about has to have some type of validity to it. Don't just be on the phone when you do talk and you're talking about just nonsense. You need to be talking about things that's going to matter in your marriage, things that's going to matter in your family and your relationship. Okay? So you have to keep the lines of communication open. Spouses, you have to support one another, regardless of what you do or what you don't do. If your soldier is deployed or your service member is deployed, then by all means, make sure that you're keeping the finances in check. Make sure that you're keeping the kids in check. Make sure you're being abreast of what goes on in the house. Make sure that you're supporting that soldier by sending care packages. You have to do these things. And then you have to do things also that takes care of yourself. Okay? Make sure you stay in touch with the family, the FRG, the Family Readiness Group, or or meet other spouses, even if you don't want to be part of the FRG, meet other spouses that can understand, and you can talk to them about some of the things that you may be going through. Because your service member, if they're serving and you're not, and you feel some kind of way because you're sitting at home every day, it's going to be kind of hard to talk to that service member about your boredom when they're dodging bullets. Okay. I mean, that's just cut and dry. They're not going to really want to hear about you being bored and, you know, only thing you did all day was watch TV, when they're dodging bullets and, you know, taking cover or have to walk around with all this gear on. They don't want to hear about that. And I'm sorry, that's just the cut and dry of it. So these are some things that you have to really understand about being married to a service member. It's not as easy as you would think it is. Some people say, well, you know, it should be good. And, you know, they think about all the benefits and stuff like that, but they don't think about the stress and the compromise and the things that you guys have to go through. You know, you don't think about those things. You look at it as all this glitz and glory because for whatever reason, people think that military people have money. I have no idea why, but they think that we have money. So because they think we have money, they think that if you marry a service member, you're going to have all this money, you're going to be comfortable. And don't get me wrong, we're not doing bad. We're not doing bad, but we do have some service members, especially when they first come in, that has to have assistance, government assistance, because they don't have enough money, they don't make enough money to take care of their families. Okay? Believe me, I've seen these people before. I've worked with these people. I've had to help them go out and get food from the food banks or sign up for food stamps or whatever just so they can feed their kids, because it's hard for a PV2 or a PV1 to feed 3 babies and a wife. Okay, so they've had to have those type of things. So yeah, once you make more rank and things like that, you make more money, but those trying times can be trying sometimes, just like everybody else. All right, so but understand that it comes with a lot more than just the glitz and glam. It comes with some sacrifices, it comes with struggles, it comes with things that you question sometimes if you are strong enough to deal with it. Okay, but anyway, I wanted to talk to you guys about that, the history of the military family. And again, this is part 2 of the history of the military family, and this is, but both parts, part 1 and 2, is part 1 of my series of marriage in the military. Again, I am Coach Shika. I hope that you guys have gotten something from this video, and I know I didn't go in depth on a lot of things because there's a lot, and if you guys have any more questions, you can leave them down below and I'll be sure to answer your questions, or you can send me an email at onemorestep@yahoo.com. You can do it or post a question on my website, www.onemorestep.com, or call me 864-1-MORE, 864-663-6673. Send me a text or give me a call and I'll take your call. All right, talk to you guys later.